This is a conversation about 2026 NFL free agent class and what I think about it, where I think everybody should go, and why on earth did the New York Giants hire Matt Nagy as offensive coordinator in 2026, guys? What are we doing? Oh no. This is a live reaction. I hate it, man. I really hate it. I'm not happy with it. I know John Harbaugh likes guys that are potentially experienced as play callers, but this is a mistake. This is such a mistake. Come on, guys. Really? Matt Nagy? In 2026? Guy got two of the worst years out of Patrick Mahomes, and we're doing this again? It's so important that Jackson Dart has a good offensive coordinator in year two. And I feel like the Giants, well, he's not the worst, not the absolute worst. Like they could have gotten Greg Roman, they could have gotten Brian Callahan. I'm not that big of a Cliff Kingsbury guy, but this is not a great hire. I guess the only good news is Harbaugh is pretty keen on firing people if things don't work out. So if it doesn't work, I hope he's gone in a year. Oh, yeah. My name is Zach Berman. This is Berman's Big Board. We're taking a break from the draft stuff today. We're talking specifically free agency. Most notably, this good class in 2026. Got a lot of big names, a lot of big storylines. We're going to break it all down for you. Now, let me preface that this free agent class is pretty top heavy, but you have some names that we're going to preview. And the key to free agency is always don't overspend for no reason, right? Market value is going to be at an all-time high. The salary cap is at an all-time high. This is where teams that are bad are going to look to get better, but it always comes to the caveat of overspending on veteran players does not typically equal success. That's why building through the draft is paramount. You supplement free agency. You don't build through free agency. With that said, there are some big, awesome names here, and let's talk about them. Now, what I'm going off of is the ESPN top 50 list for free agents. This is the top. I'm going to go top 30. I think once you get past 30, it all just kind of becomes and I don't know how you guys can focus past 30 players. I know I certainly couldn't. So let's begin with Trey Hendrickson, edge rusher who's been a Cincinnati Bengal his entire career. He's 31 years old. He had 17 and a half sacks just a year prior in 2024. Only played 7 games this year, only had 4 sacks. But look, when he's healthy, and I feel like this goes for a lot of this free agent class, when they are healthy, he is one of the best edge rushers in the sport. He would upgrade any team's defense. You put him there. I worry about a team like Philadelphia. I worry about a team like Dallas. I can't see him coming back to Cincinnati. I don't know why anybody would want to come back to Cincinnati given the way that front office has been operating for a while now. So where do I think Trey Hendrickson would end up? It feels like Philly, right? It feels like he's going to go to some contender, whether it be Philadelphia, whether it be Kansas City, whether it be, I was going to say Dallas. Dallas is not a contender. How about Chicago? I like the fit with the Bears. That would be a lot of fun. So Hendrickson, ESPN has him as the number 1 free agent on the board. Number 2, they have George Pickens, who has had an absolutely ridiculous 2025, had 22 receptions of 20 or more yards, 4th most in the league. He's explosive, and Dallas can still control his contract. They can still give him the franchise tag. You get the sense that Pickens would demand a trade if he is not franchise tagged. Does it sound similar to a year ago with Micah Parsons? Yeah, we know that Jerry Jones doesn't like to give out these extensions. These are like pulling teeth with him. So I'm not sure if he's going to stay in Dallas, but if he goes somewhere, where can you see George Pickens really taking an offense to the next level? Perhaps a team Like the Chicago Bears, could DJ Moore be on the way out? Could George Pickens be on the way in? Maybe a team like Green Bay, just like Micah Parsons. I'm not sure if Dallas would trade him to Green Bay. I doubt it. Dallas won't trade him to the New York Giants. They certainly need another receiver. Washington, another receiver to pair with Terry McLaurin, give Jaden Daniels another weapon. Maybe Baltimore. They need more receiver help. Zay Flowers can't do it all by himself. So I think it's tough to predict because the franchise tag does come into play. But wherever Pickens goes, if he stays healthy, keeps his head on straight, he could be one of the best receivers in the National Football League. Number 3, Tyler Linderbaum. One of the best centers in the National Football League. The question with Linderbaum is he going to follow his head coach from his entire career, John Harbaugh, to New York? I think ultimately the answer to that question is yes. I'm not as high on Linderbaum as some other people are, but when you have a pass block rate that is tied for second among 31 qualifying centers last year, he can anchor an offensive line for a long time. So, yeah, that number speaks for himself. I don't think he's as great of a pass blocker as maybe that number or that specific metric. It almost feels like it's cherry picking a little bit. I actually think he is a better run blocker than a pass blocker. But if he doesn't follow Harbaugh to New York, could he stick in Baltimore? There's really a place for so many across the league for a guy like Linderbaum, a great center worth their weight in gold. You know who else is worth his weight in gold? Any franchise QB. I don't think Daniel Jones is one of those, but the problem with Daniel Jones' situation, ESPN has him 4th for some ungodly reason. When he was healthy, Shane Steichen had him absolutely sling the football. We saw what happened to the Indianapolis offense without him. Then he tore his Achilles. Daniel Jones, his biggest issue has always been the lack of availability. Doesn't stay healthy, doesn't stay on the field. Indianapolis, in an all-in push, decided to trade their first this year and next year to the New York Jets for Sauce Gardner. Because of that, and because this is just a weak quarterback class in general, Indianapolis doesn't really have a choice except to go back to the Daniel Jones well. Will they learn from the Giants and not pay him too much? I don't know. I wouldn't, but then again, Chris Ballard should not have a job anymore. I feel like that's pretty obvious, at least to the naked eye. Indy has backed themselves into a really tough spot. I don't like the position they've put themselves in, but if they so please, they're going to bring Daniel Jones back. It's just a question of how bad is that cap hit going to be. I worry about that. And I also worry because they might be without one of their best wide receivers this past year. And Alec Pierce, 6'3", 211 pounds. He averaged a league best 21.5 yards per catch in 2025. He was over 1,000 yards receiving as well. This guy rocks. Just a great player. Love watching him when he's healthy. He's awesome. 26 years old coming into this season. I mean, so many teams need that wide receiver to really take their offense up a notch. If he does not go back to Indianapolis, I could see anybody from Philly to the Giants to the Steelers. San Francisco. There's a lot of teams around the National Football League that need veteran receiving presence. I think there is a home for Alec Pierce almost anywhere in the league. Breece Hall, number 7 on this list. I like Breece Hall a lot when he is healthy. Keyword, when he is healthy. He's not been healthy all that much. But when he's healthy, he's great. And I don't think he wants to go back to the Jets, Jets. This feels like a Dallas Cowboys situation. Somebody like Javonte Williams, who didn't see a ton of success in his first stop after being drafted. Now he can go into the Dallas offense and reinvent himself with that Brian Schottenheimer system that has been so helpful to so many running backs already, only in 1 year. Where else could I see him? I think Kansas City could be a solid fit for Breece Hall, given the fact that they are in dire need of some improvements in the running game. So that's another one I'd keep an eye on. But I'm not sure how much of a market there's going to be for Brees Hall, considering that the injuries have been such a problem. Wouldn't be surprised if someone buys low on him and then winds up reaping the benefits. He's a player that I wouldn't spend too much on, though. That's the issue. If you spend too much on Brees Hall, the injuries are going to wind up being a massive, massive caveat. We skipped a player. I know I had to segue into the Alec Pierce stuff, but let's go back one guy, and that one guy is Jalen Phillips, who was formerly a Miami Dolphin, was great under Vic Fangio's system in Philadelphia. Howie Roseman's the best in the business at knowing when to cut bait. Phillips, his issues out of college were always injury related. His issues in the pros have been injury related. But when he's on the field, he's 6'5", and he can get after the passer. He's a lot of fun to watch. Jalen Phillips, I don't see him going back to Philly. In fact, I see him getting the big bucks somewhere else and then cashing in. Because this might be his one big chance to get a huge, huge contract. And I think, given his history and health, I'm not so sure he's going to be able to stay healthy for an entire season. I don't know if he's going to necessarily be worth the money that he's going to command. Maybe a 1 or 2 year deal. But like I've said, there are plenty of teams in this league that need a ton of pass rush help. And when he's healthy, he certainly provides that in spades. Speaking of players, when they are healthy, they provide what they need in spades. As Jonathan Franklin Myers had a good season, 7.5 sacks and 23 pressures in Denver this year. He can play outside. He can play inside. There are teams that need pass rush. There are teams that need defensive line. Kansas City, Minnesota, San Francisco. All of them really need some big bodies on the line. Another guy that is going to be available, Odafe Owe, who had 7.5 sacks in an abbreviated stint in Los Angeles with the Chargers. I think Odafe Owe, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, who traded him to LA this year, I think he winds up going back to LA. I think he plays like a Jim Harbaugh guy. They're going to love him on that defense. They already did. Although losing Jesse Minter as defensive coordinator, that stinks. That look, I've said over and over again, I think he's my favorite hire of this entire coaching cycle. But either way, I think Odafe Owe, Monmouth County native, is a great piece for whoever picks him up, as long as your expectations of how much can he really get after the passer are tempered, because he was a late bloomer out of Penn State, someone with a really raw physical presence, but the production not necessarily there. Rasheed Walker, Green Bay Packers. I think he's going to command a lot of money. He was an 11th ranked offensive tackle in terms of pass block win rate. I don't see Green Bay giving this guy up. I think they like to keep their in-house picks in-house. Packers don't typically let these guys go, so I'm not expecting them to. I am expecting the Colts to let Braden Smith go, however, because Smith has missed over 17 games his last 3 seasons, and although he was healthy for a good chunk of 2025 and very good, ESPN still has him as their 10th ranked free agent this year. I'm not necessarily sure if I agree with their list, because if I go down the list, there are so many names that I think are better than a tackle that has not been able to stay healthy. I like Alontae Taylor, New Orleans Saints cornerback. Look for him to go to the Washington Commanders. They need so much on the back end. Quay Walker, Green Bay Packers linebacker. I know I said that Green Bay doesn't typically let these guys go, but I'm not so sure Quay Walker sticks around. It felt like a weird fit from the moment he was drafted, and even though he has been quite productive as a Packer, I know his personality has ruffled some feathers. I'm not sure if he's necessarily the Green Bay kind of guy, so I could see him going elsewhere. Maybe a team like the New York Jets, they need a lot of linebacker help. But Quay Walker's also a dude that, look, when you go to Georgia, you're wired to want to win 24/7. And I think Quay Walker is going to be chasing that dragon in this free agency cycle. Could see him getting overpaid. Tariq Woolen, I can't see him staying in Seattle. I think Seattle can improve on the back end, even though he's incredibly talented, physical. I mean, he's fast as hell and he's 6'4". So, like, yeah, he's a piece, but he almost single-handedly cost the Seahawks the NFC Championship. I think they let him walk. John Schneider's return to form as the best general manager in the National Football League. So this is a classic case of let somebody else overpay and then trade and then replenish the position through the draft. I think that's right in that plays right into Seattle's hand. Mike Evans, before this season, he had 11 straight seasons topping the 1,000-yard mark. He's a Hall of Famer. We know that. Is he still a reliable number 2 option in 2026? I'm not sure. When he's healthy, he's still a great threat in the red zone. I can't, like, as much as I think there's a place for him in a few spots around the league, I can't see anybody other than Tampa Bay bringing him back. He's a franchise legend. I think at the end of the day, Jason Licht is gonna sit there and say, "I don't wanna see this guy playing anywhere else. He needs to stay in our uniform," and he will. It's gonna be a 1 or 2-year deal. Probably it's going to be way too expensive, but look, it's a franchise face. You have to pay him, and that chemistry with Baker Mayfield, you can't fake that, and it's not easy to necessarily replenish that in the aggregate. Jalen Watson, number 16 on this list, feels like a Washington Commander, a typical guy that a Harris Blitzer team would overpay for. 3 career interceptions, 23 pass breakups in his National Football League career. He's got the length to challenge the press, but he's not a super high-end playmaker. But teams will see the Super Bowl rings. They'll see, oh, he was on this Chiefs defense that was very good. He's going to get paid way too much. The top quarterback in free agency, if you ask me, it is Malik Willis, a guy that I was high on out of college. I really liked him at the 2022 Senior Bowl out of Liberty. We all saw at that event the athletic ability that was on display. He was slinging the rock like crazy. And for me, there's only one spot that stands out as obvious for Malik Willis, and that is to follow John Eric Sullivan from the Green Bay Packers to Miami Dolphins. So when I look at Malik Willis, this feels like a really obvious choice. Maybe the most obvious choice in this entire free agent class. Some of my favorite players in this free agent cycle are former Jacksonville Jaguars, and for some reason they're only 19th and 20th on this list. Travis Etienne, who was great this year, was explosive out of both the run game and the passing game. Is he replaceable because he's a tight end or because he's a running back? Yeah, I think he is, but at the same time, I think he's too crucial a part of Liam Cohen's offense to really move on from. I think the Jaguars would be smart to stay put with him. And I think that's ultimately what they're going to do. But what is that going to cost them? It's probably going to cost them Devin Lloyd, who I loved out of the draft when he came out of the University of Utah. He's now at the end of his rookie deal, has gotten better as he's gone on in the National Football League. Had 5 interceptions last year. Guy creates takeaways. And I think he could really stabilize a defense that is missing big pieces at linebacker. I know I keep going back to Washington, but a guy like Washington, a team like the New York Giants, a team like the New York Jets, Buffalo Bills, teams that need linebacker help, need physicality, need takeaways. The Jets didn't have a single interception all year. How crazy is that? I like the fit of Devin Lloyd there. Kyle Pitts is a really intriguing one to me because when he was coming out of school, he was seen as this just like once in a lifetime generational tight end out of the University of Florida. And he has not been that. He just hasn't. And I am not really sure where he fits into the National Football League right now. Like when you look at what Kyle Pitts is, he's a big wide receiver. That's just been his thing. I actually like I have no idea what they do with Kyle Pitts. Like, I don't think he's going back to Atlanta, although I wouldn't hate the fit with Kevin Stefanski, but I think that's run its course. So I'm very confused as to where Kyle Pitts winds up because ultimately I still think he's a very good player. Just what is he as a player? I think that's what everybody wants to know. And I don't really know what he is. I don't think he knows what he is. So I'm confused. But hey, I'm not paid to make these decisions, guys. Kenneth Walker, he's going to get overpaid. Really good running back out of the Seattle Seahawks. Still has, well, one more game to play this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he walks Seattle, once again, run by one of the best GMs in the NFL, if not the best right now. I can't see them paying a running back big money. Rashid Shaheed, I could see them bring back. The kickoff returns, the speed, the game-breaking play, big playability. Now I'm just zigzagging through this list. A lot of offensive line. I love Leo Chenal, not an offensive lineman, a linebacker. Really good ball tracker in the run game. If you're a linebacker needy team, you're absolutely going to be spending a lot of money in this offseason. Devin Bush is there. Alex Anzalone is there. This is a great class for running backs. It's also a great draft class for running backs, too. One that I have a question for is Wan'Dale Robinson. Yes, he's 5'8" and a slot receiver, but he produced big time. He had over 1,000 yards in New York this year. I don't know if he's going to come back, even though Jackson Dart loves him. So that one's got me scratching my head a little bit. If you're watching this, who are your top free agents this year? Where do you think they're going to go? Because this is going to be an exciting class. Free agency opens up in a little bit more than a month. We're so close. Once again, like, subscribe, all that jazz.